Hello, greetings, and salutations. Welcome aboard my podcast. I am Jason with Jay's Paradise Travels. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. Today, it's a little bit different in the fact that if you'll notice, the name of the episode isn't what you normally would see on my episodes. Today, I'm going to be talking about my first ever date with my wife, Selena. Normally on my podcast, you'll see it named My Experience With, and then it goes on to say whatever it is, a particular team, a cruise line, an island we visited, whatever. This time I'm going to be talking about my first date with Selena, but there is a sports game involved, and I'm going to get into that in just a moment. But before I do, a little housekeeping. If you would like to go on vacation, specifically a cruise, which is my specialty, or perhaps you would like to go see a sports game, you can reach out to me and let me know. I'll be happy to help you with it. One way to do it is by email. My email is j.paradise.travels@gmail.com. That's jay.paradise.travels@gmail.com. Or you can reach out through social media. I have both a Facebook and Instagram account. They're both the exact same, Jay's Paradise Travels, Jays. There's no apostrophe in it. Make it easy. Jay's Paradise Travels. You can look me up, reach out to me in that way as well. Okay, now let's get into this week's episode. So, not long ago, I want to say from the time I'm recording this, it was just a few days ago, I was around a group of friends. And in our discussion, it got brought up about our first date with our spouses. And I heard a variety of things. One couple went to Red Lobster. Another one went to Red Robin. And I kind of thought that was funny. I was like, oh, we got Red Lobster, Red Robin. That's a lot of red. Another couple, they were a little older couple. They went to a Temptations concert when they were younger. That was their first date. So it was kind of nice to be able to hear all these first date stories. Again, we're just talking, and that was what was brought up. But then it came to me, and my first date with Selena was actually, I asked them, "What do you think it was?" They were thinking about it, and I was like, "What am I known for?" And another guy immediately answered, "You went sporting games." I was like, "Yes, that's what it was." We went to a sports game, and that was it. So it kind of made me think about and inspired me to do this podcast today based on that. Um, because I talk about a sports team, usually that I've gone to see, I talk about that, and I'm going to be doing that. But and also I'm going to be talking about my first date with Selena, which is my wife. And so there's a couple reasons why I'm doing it. One was that, and two, the team that we went to go see has changed names so many times. They have been anywhere between the California Angels, Los Angeles Angels, Anaheim Angels, Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, and all these variety of things. I don't know which one to pick. And by the time you hear this, who knows what name they'll be under. So I'm just going to talk about my first date with my wife, Selena. It was at an Angels baseball game. I'll put it that way. And that will be what it is centered around the sports team. And if that's the team you want to see again, let me know. Yeah. So we were discussing it, and I had told them that one thing about me that Selena would know from the get-go was that I was a sports guy. There was two things I remember when we were talking on the phone before. Well, let me get into like how we led up to this. I can even I guess this can be part of my podcast, going back from the beginning, how we met and everything. So I lived in Houston at the time, and my wife, she was born in New York, in Flushing. I believe she was born in Flushing. Um, their family moved back and forth from New York to California a couple times, but mainly grew up in California, Southern California, a little town called Hemet. Not many people have heard of it. It's maybe between LA, San Diego, kind of near Palm Springs, that area. Anyways, I was living in Houston, and a friend of mine that I knew one day texted me out of nowhere saying that her friend Selena was coming into town to visit her. Now, my friend at the time was living in San Antonio, so he was all excited about it. And I was like, okay, that's nice. Good for you. Happy for you. You got your friend coming. And then she just kept telling me more and more about her. And I was like, all right, well, that's cool. I guess I'll meet her. Worst case, just meet a new friend. Little did I realize she was also telling Selena about me. So I'm not going to go into every this isn't a, the whole story of how we got together, but you're getting the gist of it anyways. So when Selena flew into San Antonio to meet up with our mutual friend, they came down to Houston. Um, I don't know if it was that exact same day, the next day, whatever it was. Came down to Houston and came over. We got to hang out for a couple of days, and that's when I met her. And later on, she went back to San Antonio. We texted a little bit. When she got back to California, we were talking on the phone. Eventually started uh, dating, I guess you could say, just long distance. And it finally came to a trip where I was going to go see her for the first time since meeting her, and uh, our first date was going to be this baseball game. I was going to see her plus the baseball game. It just ended up being the first our first date. At the time, I was a flight attendant with United Airlines, and United did have a flight from Houston to Orange County Airport. I think that's where I flew into. Um, the airports out there was a few options. There's LA, San Diego, Palm Springs, Ontario, Orange County. There was a bunch that were within like a 2 hour drive from where she lived. Uh, but from Houston, there was a direct flight to Orange County. So I believe that's where I went in. And there was a friend of the family that came and picked me up, and now my friend too. Um, so I flew in there, and when you work with the airline, you have to fly standby. So you only get to go on if there's a seat available, and even that there's a seniority list that you have to go by. As a flight attendant, there is a little bit of a benefit. At least it was back then. Not sure if this still is the case because I haven't been a flight attendant for some years. But if the flight was full and you couldn't get on, if there was an extra jump seat that the flight attendants sit on for takeoff and landing, if there was an extra one that wasn't being used, you could enlist on that, and you could ride the jump seat on your way over there. So Houston to it's I think Santa Ana is the name of it, SNA, Orange County. Um, was it's 3 or so hour flight, and I couldn't get on the seat. It was a full flight, so I had to take the jump seat. Not the most comfortable thing to be sitting on for a few hours, but when you're dating someone and you're going to go see them, you take that, because you're excited about going there. And I was excited and nervous at the same time because not only was I seeing her for the first time since we had met, I was also meeting her family for the first time too. That can always cause nervousness as well. Anyways, I get on the jump seat, fly over there. That friend of the family picked me up, and it was cool that he did. It was just him, me and him. I got to talk a little bit and get to know the family through him a little bit more on his way over to his house. I ended up staying with him as well, and we went back to his place, and from there, Selena and her dad came over, and we got to be around each other a little bit. The game was later on. So it was my first time getting to see her since we had met, and it was my first time meeting my future father-in-law. And it was a nice, cordial visit. Get to talk, get to know each other a little bit more. And then they eventually left, stayed there, and me and the friend I was staying with, and his wife, yeah, he had just recently got married too at the time. Us three went and picked up Selena, and we ended up driving out to Anaheim. That's where the Angels play. They play in Anaheim, and we went out there. Um, and when we got there, oh yeah, so no, I'll talk about that a bit. So when we got there, 'cause, still talking about the experience here. We got there, nice, beautiful day out, and I mean it's Anaheim, California. It's always pretty nice and sunny and warm. We got there. I did get to kind of walk around the stadium. Where we came in, I had to walk a little bit around to get some of the pictures that I wanted, but I was able to do that. And then we went inside, into the game. The game happened. um, and whatever. I wasn't really paying. I mean, I did pay attention to the game, but it wasn't like the first thing on my mind. This was my first date with Selena, so that was a little bit more on my mind. But I got to talk a little bit about it. I don't remember much. I mean, it was a while ago, and again, I wasn't really paying too much attention to the game. I do remember at one point that me and her went to go get something from the concession stand, and we were just standing there talking. And I remember, I don't know if she remembers this or not. She may not. I don't know. She may, but I remember just kind of like stroking her cheek a little bit with my finger, and that was kind of cute. She was cute. She still is cute. That hasn't changed. Um, but I remember doing that, and we got something. I don't remember. The memories of all the details of what happened in the game during the game, not all there, just because it was a little while ago. Plus, like I said, I was kind of focused on my first date. Um, I do think it was kind of funny. I do remember when we were talking on the phone and we were planning the trip because we were long distance. And so it's one thing if you date somebody and they're across town, maybe they're still within the same state, but they live an hour away or something. It's one thing to, hey, you want to go to the movies tonight? All right, cool. You gather some friends, you do it. With a long distance, it's like, all right, you got to find some place to stay and people that can take you and all kinds of things. There's a lot of logistics to maneuver around. And being that I worked at the airline, I had scheduling things to maneuver, get on the flight, get back on the flight, that type of stuff. Um, anyway, so with that in mind, when we were planning all of this, uh, I don't think she was familiar with buying tickets to a game. I was. I'd been to plenty of games, and she, I don't remember what the situation was where I asked them to maybe look into it or grab the tickets, but the prices that she came back with were like sky high prices. She's like, oh, we have to talk about this. I don't know if we can. And when she told me the prices, I'm like, okay, all right. You know what? Let me handle it. It's a a baseball game during the week. It shouldn't be that high. We can find some cheaper prices. Don't worry about it. And sure enough, I did. But I just thought it was kind of funny. These sky high prices. I'm guessing whatever they must have saw was probably like down below, right by home plate or something to that effect. We didn't sit down there. We ended up sitting up in the upper deck. We were behind home plate, but to the left of it. So in our viewpoint, we could see home plate and then first base line. And then if you look out to the left, you see third base line and left field. That was our vantage point up there. And when we got there, it was a day game, which you could see everything nice and clear. And then by the end of it, it turned it into a night game. Um, so by the end of it, it was everything was dark and the lights were on. That happens a lot of baseball games if you go to an evening game. Um, the game itself wasn't like this great momentous game to be a part of. Um, in fact, as I mentioned, I was more focused on it being my first date than the actual game itself. I mean, I did pay attention to the game and I did watch, but it wasn't nothing to write home about. I even had to look up what happened exactly. There was one run in the second inning on a single. Okay, that's exciting. That was by the Angels. They scored two in the third, one on another single that brought Bobby Abreu home, and then another one that Torrey Hunter grounded into a double play, but brought a man home. He did eventually play for the Tigers too, incidentally. Anyway, so that was two runs, riveting. So that was 3-0. In the seventh inning, Seattle, that's who they were playing, the Seattle Mariners, hit a two-run shot by Smoke. All right, we got one home run from the opposing team. That was it. That was the exciting action of that game. 3-2 final. The Angels beat Seattle. Yay. Again, I don't really remember all of that. I had to look up what even happened with that. And I'm usually pretty good at remembering stuff. Selena even tells me, like, when it comes to the games I've been to, my memory's pretty amazing. But then I'll forget my keys when I'm walking out the door or something ridiculous like that. I would forget my head if it wasn't attached to my neck. I always joke on that. My memory's kind of odd. But I guess just because, again, that was my first date. The game was a little inconsequential. It was cool, it was there, and I got to experience being at the stadium because that's part of what my hobby is. Um, and she got to know. So as I mentioned before, I didn't get around to this. It's been a long way getting to it. There was two things that I mentioned to her when we were talking on the phone, and we got to do well when we were talking on the phone. I kind of just warned her, like, one, I'm a sports guy, and that I'm not into cars. I don't care what's under the hood of a car, how fast things go. If a car goes fast, I guess that can be kind of cool. But I do not care about cars at all. I do not care what's under the hood. They get me from point A to point B, hopefully comfortably. If they do it kind of quickly, great. Don't care about cars. I am not into construction. I do it sometimes because I have to pay some bills, but don't care to. I don't care about construction. I am not a humongous workout guy as regards like love it. I do it just because I want to eat more donuts and whatever, but I that's it. I'm not it's not a passion of mine. My one guy thing. My one guy thing is sports. That is my one guy thing. I am a sports guy. And she learned that very early on. The other thing I wonder about too is I'm an extremely affectionate guy too. So we get together, you will be smothered with hugs and kisses. That is just who I am. I'm a very affectionate guy. And so didn't smother her right then and there that first day. Not going to do that. Like I said, I did a little cheek thing. That was the affection, and I think we held hands that day. But anyways, but since then, many years later, she definitely has been smothered with hugs and kisses. So I'm a sports guy. I'm a very affectionate guy, and the affection goes to other people too. Not that I hug and kiss everyone, but Greeks do hug and kiss. Like if you go to Greece, you will hug and kiss people as a greeting. That's what they do, and other places in Europe do it too. That's not acceptable here, so obviously don't do it here. But if someone's okay with it, I will give them a hug. I will hug anyone. So she learned that very early on. This dude is a sports guy, and our very first date was a sports game. 3-2 victory for the Angels. Good for them. Not very exciting actually for the game itself. The stadium itself, nice little baseball stadium. They have as I mentioned, I walked around to take some pictures. They have an open area. I think it was in the outfield. And from there, you could see like the Angels A, right? This that they had out there. Got to see that. And then they also had some sort of structure, some A looking structure too, that I took a picture of. Not exactly sure what that is, maybe just a sign or whatever, but they had that. The capacity is, I looked up, was 45,050 people. According to the attendance for that day, it was 41,449. I don't know if it was that many. Maybe it was. I don't recall it being overly stuffed with people. Again, that could be just how many tickets got sold, whether or not that was that many people. I definitely earlier in the game when it was light out wasn't as full, but then later when it was later on in the game, when it was darker out, there was more people there. So maybe it could be 41,000. One thing that's kind of cool, kind of unique about it. One, they have a waterfall out in the outfield. I can't. Well, I wasn't there for a home run from the home team. I was there for a home run for the road team. Whether or not they do any special effects or anything out there when they hit a home run, it's possible. Some teams do that. Whether or not there's any special effects with that waterfall, I don't know. But still, having a waterfall out in the outfield is kind of cool. So there's that, and then what it's close to is pretty cool too. So it's right like across from Honda Place, which is or Honda Center, which is where the Anaheim Ducks play. You could actually see it. Well, from our seats. You could look out in the outfield and you could see the Honda Center. I was excited about that because, like, all right, cool. There's another stadium there that I get to literally see with my eyes. And as time went on in our marriage, when we went back to visit family, I did get to go to the Honda Center a couple times to see the Anaheim Ducks. I'll talk about that in another podcast another time. But there's there too, and it's pretty close to Disneyland as well. I can't remember if it was like right next to it or pretty close to it, whatever it is. They're in that same vicinity. They're not far from each other. They're in Anaheim, so that's kind of cool, kind of unique. The waterfall, Honda Center's right there. You're close to Disneyland. Not many stadiums besides maybe this one, and I guess you could say Honda Center, can say that they're right next to Disneyland. So there's that. As regards, let's see here, just a few other miscellaneous notes too. My first date with Selena, she did not grow up in a sports household. I think if her dad did like anything, maybe he liked the Yankees because he was around, from New York area. Um, I'd have to confirm with her, but I don't think she had ever been to a game before. So I think I took her to her first ever ball game, which is always cool when I get to take someone to their first ever ball game. Sometimes it's their first ever maybe baseball game or basketball game. Sometimes it's their first ever game ever. That's pretty cool. Mike Trout was not yet with the Angels, so I didn't get to see him. I think I did see him once in Detroit when the Angels came to town. This was after we got married. I think I got to see him once there. That was kind of cool. One of the great player that came through the league. Um, and I do remember too when I was little, there was a movie called Angels in the Outfield. I think it was a Disney movie, and used to watch it as a kid. And I think back then they were the California Angels, if I remember correctly. I think they were the California Angels. Like I said, this team has been renamed so many times. Um, they got their little nickname, the Halos, uh, which is kind of cute, I guess. But that movie, I used to really like it as a kid. I think I watched it during COVID once when we were at home and had so much time on our hands. That was the last time I seen it. It's a little different when you're an adult, but back then when you're a kid, you enjoy it. So, but yeah, to be able to go to the stadium and see the team that movie was based off of. I think if I remember correctly, there has been a movie about that highlighted pretty much every team because I think I read an article once and it had so many different movies that every team got focused on. If I could pull that article up anyway. So, but that was not that I've seen all those movies. This movie I did see, and I saw it a lot as a kid. Um, some friends that I have met that out there have gone back to games, and they even got to sit in suites. And and I get jealous again. Just I've never been in a suite. I don't know if I'm pretty sure I've mentioned that in other podcasts before. I've been to literally hundreds of games, and never one time have I ever got to sit in a suite. And one of the ones that I know that went there, not even a baseball fan or a sports fan, he's more of a music guy. And again, it drives me bonkers because there's so many friends that I've known that do not care about sports or do not care about the team, and they've got to go sit in a suite. And me that does love it all, I've never got to go. Jealous in a good funny way. Let's see what else here. Did I write down? Hmm, is that it? Is that everything? Maybe. Yeah. Again, just Selena knew that I was a sports guy. She wasn't a sports girl. Like I said, she didn't grow up in a household that was a sports family. Um, but being married to me got her into it. She was open to it, which was nice. I think she probably had a little familiarity with baseball, but she was open to it, and I was willing to teach her. Um, I have no problem teaching someone a sports game, and she was willing to learn. So she's actually become a sports girl herself. She says she doesn't have the passion that I do for some of these things, and maybe that is true. But I have seen definitely her get into it as time has gone on. So much so that there's times where she's watching a game, I'm not. I'll come home from work or something, and she tells me about some sports news about a player that got traded or retired, or she'll tell me if one of the teams that I like has won or lost because I didn't watch it. And then she's even okay for like she got into the Lions last season and was upset when they lost to Washington in the playoffs. So she has become a sports person, and I think about uh, right now. I'm recording this in March of 2025. We got married in December of 2010, and the game that we went to was probably I want to say July of 2010. So 15 years later, just about. To think about where we came from for that first date when I got to take her to a baseball game. S- Still getting to know her. Just met her family on that trip, first time getting to meet them. Nervous about that, and to think of all that's happened in 15 years. The amount of times we have gone back to visit her. Working for the airlines saved us thousands being able to go visit her family. To see the different sports teams along the way, to see how she's become more of a sports person. And I've actually probably have gone down a little bit, if you can imagine that. I know I talk about it, I still go, because I used to be super emotional with it, angry when my team lost, so upset, so bummed, so in a bad mood. And eventually something just snapped with me after a loss once where I was done being emotional with it. I still enjoy games, I still enjoy sports, but I feel like the emotion behind it is not as strong as it used to be. And maybe just because I got sick of being what felt like a kick to the stomach when the team lost. Um, so Selena's is her passion has gone up a little bit, where she was getting upset when certain teams were losing, and mine, where I was upset when they were, has gone down. I don't know where we are exactly. Maybe she's above me or we're equal. I don't know. But either way, just I think about how uh, much has changed, how much we've grown, and as time has gone on, in 15 years of being uh, from that first date. We're about to be 15 years because I guess it'll still be a few months away that it'll hit 15-year mark uh, from our first date. Yeah, but all happy memories. And my what's been now 14 years of marriage, going on 15. She's been a wonderful wife, and I try to be a wonderful husband for her. We've never had a humongous major argument. We've never screamed at each other. Um, we always love being around each other, even if we're not maybe necessarily doing something together, but we like being around each other. Uh, we're a happily married couple, and it stemmed 15 years ago. That was the first date. That was the first step of this long road that we've been on, and it's been good memories. At least with us. I mean, there's been obviously things in life that happen. No life is perfect. We've had a lot of things we've had to handle or deal with, but never has been there ever a major thing amongst us that we've had to overcome. We've had our disagreements here and there, and maybe would be upset, but no one's ever slept on the couch or threatened to leave or divorce. That hasn't even remotely been even close to anything that's happened in our marriage. So um, happy to have a nice home life with my wife, nice happy marriage. And again, it all stemmed back in July of 2010 on our first date when we went to that baseball game. So that was my first date with my wife Selena. I hope you enjoyed hearing about it, and hope you enjoy. If you were married, I hope you have a good marriage yourself. And if you're thinking about getting married, I love it. I've loved every second of it, and hopefully you find the right person that would make you just as happy as Selena's made me, and I've hopefully made her. But this is also part of a travel agency thing. So if it is something you want to go see yourself, perhaps you'd like to go see an Angels game or go to Disneyland, go on a cruise, which I didn't tell her that that was what I was. That came because I didn't get to go on as many. I did love them, but I just didn't get to go on as many. It wasn't until later on that we got to go on more. Although we did go on a cruise for our honeymoon. Um, but being younger as what I was, maybe didn't have the means to be able to go on them as much. As you get older, then you find yourself in a better position. So I didn't warn her that I was a cruise guy. She knows now, that's for sure. But anyways, if that's something you would like to do, uh, feel free to let me know. You can reach out to me again through email, j.paradise.travels@gmail.com. It's jay.paradise.travels@gmail.com. Or you have Instagram or Facebook, Jay's Paradise Travels, Jays, Jay's Paradise Travels. Either one of those platforms, I have it. Feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you go on vacation, go to a game, whatever it is that you're looking to do. As I mentioned, I hope that you enjoyed hearing my story about it. And I hope that you enjoyed this podcast and still maybe learned something from it, took something away from it. Hopefully you did. If you did, please like the video. That is big. Please interact, leave comments. I'd love to hear if you have a positive comment about the Angels, a story with them. Maybe you like the movie Angels in the Outfield, or if you want to talk about your marriage, your dating, your first date, whatever. I'd love to hear your story. Feel free to leave it in the comments. Please subscribe to the channel and share it with others. All those things help those algorithms and all those things that podcasters need to keep their podcasters going, as well as myself, because this is a business that I'm running that I want to be able to spread my name to other people and be able to have them use me as their travel agent. So please feel free to do all those things. Thank you again for listening, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye bye.